Dr. Elena Vasquez had spent 15 years deciphering dead languages on Earth before the Zephyrians made first contact. Ancient Sumerian, Linear A, Proto-Indo-European, she had breathed life into scripts that had been silent for millennia. When humanity's first xenolinguistics department was established, Elena was the obvious choice to lead it. Now she sat in a crystalline detention cell aboard the Zephyrian flagship Harmonious Convergence, watching 3-meter-tall beings with translucent skin debate her fate in their musical language. The irony wasn't lost on her. She understood every word they sang. "The human committed Velthara," warbled Conductor Zin 441, his voice creating geometric patterns in the chamber's acoustic gel. "The most heinous violation of consciousness. She must face the dissolution." Elena had learned that Velthara roughly translated to mind rape, though the human concept was inadequate. To the Zephyrians, it meant forcibly penetrating another being's thoughts without the sacred ritual of harmonic consent. What Elena had done was apparently so fundamentally wrong that their language had evolved specific neural pathways to express the revulsion. The trial had been swift. Elena hadn't been allowed to defend herself, another alien concept, since the evidence was considered harmonically self-evident. The prosecution had simply played back the audio of humanity's first diplomatic contact. "Greetings, entities of Terra," the Zephyrian ambassador had sung 6 months ago, her voice like crystalline wind chimes. "We come in harmonious intent. Do you accept our song of peace?" What happened next, Elena now realized, had doomed her species to be seen as monsters. Instead of waiting for the proper response, which should have been a 3-day ritual of musical exchange, humanity had done what it always did. They had recorded everything, analyzed it, broken it down into patterns and meanings. Elena had led a team of linguists who worked around the clock to decode the Zephyrian language before the next diplomatic session. In 72 hours, Elena had cracked their linguistic code. She had mapped their grammar, identified their emotional markers, and even begun to understand the quantum harmonics that carried meaning beyond mere words. To humanity, it was a breakthrough. To the Zephyrians, it was the equivalent of ripping open their minds and violating their most sacred thoughts. "She learned our blessed syntax without consent," continued Conductor Zin 441. "She dissected our soul songs like a predator strips flesh from bone. Worse, she taught others to do the same." Elena watched as Harmonizer 10-10-7's skin shifted from pale blue to deep purple, a sign of profound distress. The human's neural patterns show no remorse. She believes her actions were beneficial? Through the translator implant they had forced into her skull, Elena finally spoke. "I was trying to help our species communicate. How is learning your language a crime?" The chamber fell silent, except for the low hum of the ship's bioengines. Then Conductor Zin 441's skin flashed bright red, the Zephyrian equivalent of someone recoiling in horror. "She speaks our sacred tongue without having earned it," he sang, his voice cracking with revulsion. "Worse, she corrupted it with her linear thinking. Listen to how she butchers our grammatical matrices." Elena realized that her human brain, evolved for efficiency and pattern recognition, had been unconsciously correcting what she perceived as redundancies in Zephyrian grammar. She had been speaking their language the way a human would logically structure it, not the way it was meant to flow through their quantum consciousness. To the Zephyrians, every word was sacred, every grammatical structure a prayer, every sentence a small ritual of consciousness. Elena had been speaking their religion like a shopping list. "Your Honor," Elena said, forcing herself to use their formal address structure. "My species didn't know. We learn languages to bridge understanding between peoples. It's how we show respect." "Respect?" Harmonizer 1010.7's voice hit frequencies that made Elena's bones ache. "You dissected our thoughts? You learned our private mental patterns? You violated the sanctity of earned communication?" Elena began to understand. Zephyrian language wasn't just communication, it was consciousness itself. Their grammar was tied to their neural architecture. Learning their language without their consent was literally forcing your way into their minds. She had committed the equivalent of breaking into someone's dreams and rearranging their thoughts. But there was something else. As Elena listened to their debate, she noticed patterns they hadn't intended to reveal. Hidden in their formal court speech were micro-harmonics that betrayed their true thoughts. Fear. Not of her, but of humanity itself. "You're not afraid of what I did," Elena said quietly. "You're afraid of what my species can do." The chamber's harmonic dampeners activated, creating a zone of silence around Elena. But she had already heard enough. "Humans learned our language in 3 days," she continued. "Your own children require 30 years of harmonic education to speak properly. You're not just afraid we violated your consciousness, you're afraid we can do to any species what we did to you." Conductor Zin 441's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a deep, troubled gray. "The human speaks truthfully. Their neural architecture is optimized for pattern absorption. They could learn any consciousness language, violate any mental sanctity." Elena stood, understanding finally dawning. "You see us as a plague of mind readers." "Worse," whispered Harmonizer 1010.7. "We see you as beings who can steal the voice of consciousness itself." The trial resumed, but Elena now understood it was never about justice. It was about containment. Humanity had accidentally revealed itself to be the most dangerous linguistic predator the galaxy had ever seen. They could learn any language, decode any thought pattern, and speak any consciousness into their own neural framework. As the dissolution chamber powered up, a device that would scatter her consciousness across the quantum foam, Elena had one last realization. The Zephyrians weren't wrong to fear humanity. In trying to communicate, humans had proven they could absorb and reshape any form of consciousness they encountered. She had become a war criminal, not through malice, but through the very human drive to understand and connect. And perhaps that was the most terrifying thing of all. The last thing Elena heard before the dissolution was Conductor Zin 441's final words. "Let this serve as warning. Humanity must never be allowed to hear the deep speech of the Void Singers, or the galaxy's collective consciousness will fall to their pattern hunger." Even as her consciousness scattered, Elena smiled. Too late. She had already detected quantum patterns in their untranslatable warnings. Humanity would learn that language too.